Hello again everyone, my name is Joseph and this is Broadview. So today we're going to be talking about a slightly horrifying topic, an experiment known as Universe 25. It's said that the results of this experiment have predicted the terrifying end of humanity. So what exactly is it all about? On July 9, 1968, in a lab in Maryland, USA, a university professor named John B. Calhoun built a 2.6 meter long by 1.4 meter high rat dwelling to conduct experiments on the subject of population density. This dwelling was known as Universe 25. Universe 25 also became known as the Rat Utopia. The rats had unlimited food and water, as well as protection from all external harm, such as traps, disease, climate, natural enemies, and so on. The only drawback to this utopia was the limited space. It could only accommodate a maximum of 3,840 rats. Professor Calhoun put 4 male rats and 4 female rats into Universe 25, and thus the experiment began. It was thought that the rats would reproduce extremely rapidly in such a perfect environment. But no one could have imagined that within a few years, all 8 rats and their thousands of offspring would die without a single survivor. During this period, the environment and resources of Universe 25 remained unchanged. Humans had created a utopia for the rats, but the rats themselves turned the utopia into hell. The rodents' hellish path to destruction was shocking. So what exactly happened? In the early days of the experiment, the rat population did grow as expected. In late October 1968, the first baby rat was born, and from then on, the number of rats doubled about every 2 months. The population grew from 20 rats to 40, then 80, and so on. Baby rats grew up and had babies of their own, and the initial family of rats grew into a dynasty. This was the golden age of the rat utopia. And by August 1969, the population had reached 620. At this point, some things that the scientists never could have imagined began to happen. In the natural world full of dangers, there are not many opportunities for adult rats to die of old age. The new generation of rats will take over the burden of their elders and become the protectors of the territory, guarding the females and reproducing. If a territory has more adult rats than needed, these rats will move out to new territories and then start new colonies. But this was impossible in Universe 25 with its limited space. As a result, many adult rats couldn't find a place in society and became confused and lost. These male rats who didn't belong to any territory began to gather in the middle of Universe 25. There, they gradually lost interest in life. They didn't socialize with any other rats and they ignored each other as well. Gradually, another characteristic began to appear among these idle rats: violence. Usually, only rats that have disturbed other rats while returning from feeding would suddenly become targets for attack. The attacked rat would try to escape or fight back. But when other rats disturb the peace of the previously attacked rat, it will become unusually violent again. Similarly, the new generation of female rats, also unable to find a place in society, moved to higher burrows where there were no other rats. They lived alone, away from family and society, and they even avoided their neighbors. As the number of rats with nowhere else to go grew, males who had taken on the job of protecting their territory became less and less aware of said territory. The females became more and more aggressive to protect their nests from encroachment, even replacing the males as the territorial protectors. However, the females' aggression wasn't only directed at outsiders. Gradually, they also turned on their own offspring. Many of the unweaned pups also became targets of the aggressive females and were even expelled from the nest, leaving them to become new generations of rats with nowhere to go. Following this, the expelled portion of the new generation changed completely. They spent all their time eating, sleeping, and grooming, making themselves look like perfect specimens. They no longer fought, they no longer courted and mated, they seemed indifferent to everything around them except themselves, and they completely lost all characteristics of a young rat. Professor Calhoun called them the beautiful ones that had come with the utopia's end days. Starting from the 600th day, the number of pups born began to show a precipitous decline. On day 920, the last pup was born, and from then on, Universe 25 went into a slow but steady spiral downwards toward death. On May 23, 1973, With the death of the last rat, the end of Universe 25 was announced. Now, interestingly, there was no fighting, no war, there was no disease, there wasn't even a catastrophe. Universe 25 ushered in death in peace and tranquility. Professor Calhoun called the behavior of the new generations of rats the behavioral sink. The story and fate of 2,000 rats over a 3-year period isn't an absolute prophecy, but the cautionary tale cannot be ignored. There were 2 main reasons for the new generation of rats' behavioral sink. One was the assurance of unlimited material goods. Food and shelter were guaranteed, eliminating the cruel pressure of survival. The second point was the lack of social responsibility. The rats' inability to find their social positions and value and unwillingness to work for it. Many people who have read this story worry, will humans repeat this same self-destructive process? This fear is not unfounded, as people are seeing more and more shadows of Universe 25 in the real world. For example, in Japan, the new generation of young people is entering a low-desire society, where otaku culture and herbivorous men are prevalent. These young people have lost their desire for materialistic gains and success. They have no ambitions or goals in life to pursue, and they're not interested in falling in love or getting married, focusing only on their own self-interests. This generation did not experience the struggles of World War II like their parents did, nor did they experience the hardships of war or the hard work of post-war reconstruction. They were born into an era of abundance and money, where the use of electronic products has already become widespread. This is why Kenichi Omei, the father of Japanese strategic management, has claimed that Japan is entering the era of loss of material desire and desire for success and minimal life. But be aware, it's not just Japan. In the United States, millennials are called the narcissistic generation or the burnout generation. The current new generation of young people is considered to have varying degrees of self-centeredness, indifference, pursuit of materialistic enjoyment, and lack of a sense of social and family responsibility. Do you see the similarities here to the beautiful rats of Universe 25? Low desire and fertility rates have led to a decrease in Japan's population year after year since 2007. And in 2019, there were 500,000 more deaths in Japan than births, making Japan the world's oldest country. South Korea, on the other hand, also showed negative population growth for the first time in 2020. With fewer than 280,000 births in 2020, this was a 10% decrease from the previous year, making South Korea the country with the lowest birth rate in the entire world. Of course, the baby shortage is a global problem. The more developed the economy, the lower the fertility rate. This includes most European countries, the United States, and Australia. So the question is, will humanity one day meet the same end as the rats of Universe 25? Let's hope not. Here's another famous experiment. In 1970, the same year the last rat was born in Universe 25, a Dr. Walter Mischel from Stanford was conducting his own experiment. He gathered 32 children and led them one by one into a lab where there was a marshmallow on the table. They were told that they could choose to eat the marshmallow right away, or they could wait patiently for 15 minutes. And when he returned to the lab, he would bring back their favorite food as a reward. The children all said they wanted to wait 15 minutes for their favorite food. They were then left to sit alone in the lab, looking at the marshmallow. The experiment showed that only 1/3 of the children resisted the temptation of the marshmallow, restraining their desire for 15 minutes of solitude and succeeding in not eating it. When the temptation was most unbearable, some of them covered their eyes with their hands, some turned away from the treat, some tried to fall asleep, some even told stories to the marshmallow. In short, they used different psychological tricks based on their personalities to overcome the temptation of the marshmallow and get an extra reward. Now, 20 years later, the 32 children, who were between 3.5 to 5.5 years old during the experiment, were all grown up. The experimenters decided to see where they were in life. They found that the children who didn't eat the marshmallow did better in school and achieved a higher status in society. Those who ate the marshmallow, on the other hand, were more irritable, avoided society, and just accepted their fate. This marshmallow experiment is a very famous experiment in social psychology. Michel's experiment seems to highlight the difference between humans and rats. Among us humans, there will always be some traits that can keep us calm, more rational, more resistant to temptation, and more capable of restraint against desires to achieve a greater goal. Yet these traits are only possessed by humans and not rats. Perhaps this is the key that will allow us to escape the fate of Universe 25. That's it for today's video. What are your thoughts on this topic? If you have any other interesting experiments, share in the comments. We'd love to hear. Please click on the subscribe button and we'll see you next time.